Hello and welcome everyone to our Wednesday news hour, where we hear from social entrepreneurs who we fondly call change makers, and their teams from around the world about timely topics and solutions. My name is Subhashish, and I lead the Law for All initiative at Ashoka that looks at social innovations in the law and justice sector. We're thrilled to have many of you joining today from Ashoka's global community, and also a big welcome to those joining from Osama's community. Today we have, for the next 30 minutes, we'll be hearing from Osama about making internet access universal in India. Before we get started, a few housekeeping points. First, we love hearing from you as we move along. Feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll get to as many as we can in the second half. For those who wish to use an automated captioning, you can select the three dots at the bottom corner of the Zoom screen that says more, and then select show subtitles. Okay, so now I would love to introduce today's guest, Osama Manzar. Hi, Osama. So to introduce Osama
hello
to
everyone.
To introduce Osama to you all, Osama founded the Digital Empowerment Foundation in 2003, which has been building community-led digital infrastructure around rural India, such as community networks to provide internet access. This work has helped bring internet access to over 100 million people, but most importantly, it has equipped about 15 million people to enable this process of internet access making. Just to hint at the larger issue of access, when things changed in biblical proportions during the first and the subsequent hits of COVID-19, India's policies around vaccine rollouts, the online education and delivery of welfare services assumed that there is universal internet access across the population, and there's also literacy everywhere. In reality, only 65% of the households are connected with the internet. So essential services became inaccessible to almost 1/3 of the population, leading to mass exclusions. So on that note, Osama, can you please paint the larger internet access landscape of India concerning the rest of the world, as you continue to place the internet with food, clothing, and shelter, and medical care and education as basic needs for every human?
Hey, thanks, Subhashish, and welcome to everyone who is behind the screen but on the connectivity. I would like to emphasize that when we started internet, we were on a copper line and we were on 9.6 kbps to start our life, which you cannot even imagine today. Today, that connectivity will give you just a tower visibility on your mobile phone, but no data transfer, perhaps, because of the power of the machine that requires a lot of power to transfer the data. Digital Empowerment Foundation, recognized this necessity of access to information in 2002 late when we registered the organization. And Subhashish, when you are asking what is the canvas of access or access issue, I must say that in the last 25 years of internet, when it has come, and more than 25 years, the things have changed for connectivity to internet. It has changed from being internet as an alternative or as a desire or as another additional things in your pocket. It is a necessity today. And yet, after 25 years of internet, half the world is unconnected, and most of those unconnected people live in India. To give you a real picture of India, I have the screen in front of me, and Wikipedia says that 61% of India is connected. Now, 61% India means very different in perspective. When we say 61%, we have to bifurcate it into saying that how much of this percentage comes from urban India and the metropolitan, which you know is overconnected, and from rural India, which is overpopulated and largely populated, is underconnected. So certainly more than 60 to 70% of rural India is largely unconnected meaningfully, I would say, because if you see the internet journey of 25 years, it is also important to know that are we meaningfully connected or are we just connected? And I will talk about that meaning of the meaningful connectivity a little later. Now, if I just push another screen of mine, which is even more important because India is a mobile country. India jumped through the fourth screen. We had the first screen, which is cinema, second screen, TV, third screen, personal computer, fourth screen, mobile, right? When we reached to the fourth screen, India bypassed third screen, actually, which is the PC screen or the personal computer or laptop. That screen is totally vanished from India. The larger population of India who is connected is only connected through the fourth screen, which is mobile, either as a feature phone or as a smartphone. Now, the smartphone penetration very clearly says is 31.8%. Again, here, everybody knows that more than 50 to 60% of those percentage belongs to metropolitan. You and me have 2-3 mobile smartphones. Many people have several more. And in rural India, if somebody has, it may be just one in one household or in a village or in a cluster or in a hamlet, right? So here also, the connectivity through, and the reason I'm taking mobile's number is that the mobile as a device is the highest connected device if you talk about the connectivity means to internet for the people, right? There is no other thing that is highest connected to the internet. So that means when the data says 61% people connected, they are larger part of those connectivity comes through the smartphone, and a smartphone itself is 31% connected. So you can imagine how skewed this data is as far as those poor, underserved, rural, remotely living communities are. And that's very, very important because of 3 reasons. One, because India grew very fast in terms of creating e-governance situation. India grew very fast in terms of making all essentials in life dependent on connectivity, either through the identification or authentication of biometric, or through e-banking, or through e-commerce, or through e-identification, or through digital identity. It became necessity in the last 5 to 10 years. Now, what happens is that even though more than 50% people in rural India or 60% people in rural India or even more who are unconnected, their life is still dependent on computers or internet, right? Why? Because they can't have access to food without connectivity. They can't have access to health without connectivity. They can't have access to essentials without connectivity. And that is extremely bad news. The only thing they get without connectivity is misinformation and fake news. That's another irony, because they all get rumors and they all listen and they hearsay, and they get without mobile phone connectivity or internet connectivity. So the misinformation reaches without connectivity. Actual information doesn't reach without connectivity. And that's the irony that we are into at this situation. And that's the canvas that we have. And that's very, very important for the entire civil society, governance, and the corporates to understand this meaning of dependency on connectivity vis-a-vis the exclusion, vis-a-vis also the opportunity, that you need to grab. I will stop there and I would look for another question that you may have.
Thank you so much, Osama. And that I think was really, really a very valuable observation that you just shared, that connectivity, the internet connectivity is not as simple as just food or medical care, but it's much more complex because there is information and there is misinformation. When in the beginning, I was mentioning that how your work has mobilized 15 million people who are leaders who have in turn brought internet access to 100 million more. Now, I'd love to hear from you, Osama. How did that happen? What really went behind making that possible in the community level?
So very interesting, and thanks for asking that question. Is that how our journey actually identified the connectivity or access as the most important tool for making people exercise their human rights, making people exercise their entitlement, making people to exercise their opportunity. And when we started 20 years back, and this is our 20th year of foundation, and our number says that more than 20 million people that we have affected, we didn't really go through solving the problem of finding connectivity per head or a per person. No, not at all. We hit the target from 4 or 5 ways. And in all the 4 or 5 ways, we kept the community in the middle of all the solution that we always thought of. So number one solution, can we create a local community, take responsibility of utilizing frugal technologies, frugal methodologies, and frugal regulatory opportunities to get connected? Community networks is one of them. And also existing infrastructure to leverage is another one. But the most important thing is that how do we create connected community centers in the village level, so that you don't really look for connectivity for individual household, but you create a chowpal kind of thing, or a resource center kind of thing, or a public access point where lots of computers are available, tablets are available, biometrics are available, banking services are available, education services are available, all of them are available. And people can just walk in without hesitation. And it's a safe space to come in. And we always try to create a situation that this is managed by entrepreneurs. So today, while I am talking to you, we have reached about 1,200 such locations across the country, where entrepreneur-driven community resource centers, digitally enabled, broadband-enabled community resource centers are available, and it is run entrepreneurially. So you're creating an entrepreneur, you're creating a digital entrepreneur. 80% of them are women, so they are also creating a women empowerment. You are fighting digital gender divide, and you are also creating a sustained kind of environment to have access available, to have education available, to have entitlement available, to have banking available, to have financial services available, to have health services available. So you literally can access anything and everything through that resource center. And in addition, what we have been doing largely is that, can we create local resources who are like barefoot engineers to have Wi-Fi connectivity, or solve Wi-Fi connectivity, or solve internet connectivity, or erect their own connectivity, erect their own tower, find their own solution. The third is that, can they be skilled enough to find an alternative job and trained in bulk and in masses? That's the second part. Third is, how do you integrate all these 5, 6 dependent sectors, from agriculture to health to education to livelihood to entertainment to government services, all together to create an opportunity at the last mile? And to our success, there are 4 success stories that we have been able to create. Is that in 2011 or something, we helped create National Digital Literacy Mission, for the entire country, that it should become essential for each and every one. At some point of time in 2007 or 8, we helped government and the private sector write a plan to have entrepreneurially driven, what they call as village level entrepreneurs, to run kiosks to provide government services to the people, which is called Common Service Center. So we were the co-author of this and co-writer of this and co-creator of this. The third, which came in pandemic, which was very happy news, is that when government announced that you can literally bypass all the bottlenecks of becoming an ISP. So any individual, any shop, anybody can buy internet and sell internet. can install an internet. So that is now free of cost. But of course, you have to buy the internet to your pay internet, but there is no licensing fees, there is no bureaucratic barrier and all that, which we propagated and pushed for a very, very long time based on our community network. Government adopted that formula of last mile Wi-Fi must be liberalized. ISP must be liberalized. These are some of the scale that I'm talking about, is that you do not achieve only by doing yourself, but you do it by creating policy environment, you create by a scale environment, you also create by entrepreneurship environment to do it on their own. I will come back with more examples, more relations in the next another 5 minutes to give you a break so that you may have something in mind. Please ask.
Thank you so much, Osama. And that I think was really, really useful to establish a little bit of clarity on how the work is done in a grassroots level, because oftentimes we don't realize that there are so many layers that affect internet access. What you just mentioned about the IXPs, the internet exchange points that are essential in most parts of the world, and how the government regulatory systems allow those IXPs to then provide internet to people. And I think that was a fantastic example of how you leveraged a new opportunity. And I think on that note, I also wanted to ask you, when you think of internet as a tool for access to information, there are two important areas that we need to discuss of, and I think you shed some light around that. How lack of access is detrimental, and how the internet is used by all kinds of actors to misinform people. So you mentioned about that some time back. What has been DF's key learning through its on-ground work? Because there are success stories, but there are also failures, and learning from those failures. And then you always bounce back in your next venture, in your next project, to ensure that those learnings are reflected in your work. So what has been sort of your learning curve, because your work is primarily on ground, and there's a lot of collaboration with other stakeholders.
So good point, and I must say that I am not fully very happy that many of our approaches, which comes from the learning on the ground, which should be taken by the government and the corporate, must be taken, because we are not the only one who can solve all the problem. As a civil society organization, as a developmental organization, as a social enterprise, nobody expects us to do a scale of Tatas or Ambanis or Reliances or even government, right? But yet we have some scale. Let me point out 2-3 things that has not been done and should be done in terms of access. For example, we are no more in a situation where internet should be seen as a tech. Internet's certainly not a technology anymore. It's either a medium or a communication or a tool of necessity where you need to access your rights and your opportunities and your daily job. That's what it is. So therefore, my grudge is, and my disappointment is, that we still see internet as a technology. We still see as internet as tech, and for any developed country like India, where large population is not connected, we must not be only dependent on Ministry of IT or technology or something like that. What I'm trying to say is that let's bifurcate the necessity of internet. There is a health sector. It's necessary for health to have a tech, but we look at tech as a high tech for doing MIS and things like that. Why don't we look at Ministry of Health having its own internet responsibility to connect all the village level health centers or community health centers with video conferencing? That will make life so easy for the grassroots level to talk to the doctors anywhere in the country and solve their problems, because 80% of the health access is about preventive health and not curative health. It's the curative health that need high tech. The preventive health is only required for information. And information access can happen at the most good video conferencing or good video connectivity. Why are we not doing that? Come to education. We have 1.4 million schools. We have about 7 million teachers, and we have about 320 million children. What is that institution? That's like as good as big as United States of America. All the students and all the schools. Why education department and ministry does not take the responsibility of making broadband Wi-Fi available in each and every school campus of the country? Why? I mean, this is very simple. So Ministry of IT doesn't look at the responsibility. Ministry of Telecom doesn't look at the responsibility. I, as an education sector, I should look at the responsibility to do it, and I take it as a separate project. Come to finance sector. You know, you have all the bank accounts of the rural underserved people. Now, when you have account, you don't have access to ATM. You don't have banking facility. You know, far away, 10, 20 kilometers, people have to walk. Why can't that entire financial sector take the banking in the hands of the people through internet connectivity? And why it is not a responsibility of Ministry of Finance and all the banking organizations? Why it is a responsibility of somebody else? I will take you to business sector. We have millions of self-help groups. We have 26 million micro and small enterprises and medium enterprises. They all are unconnected. They don't use digital. Why it is not a responsibility of creating grassroots level micro enterprises have easily connectivity available to them in a community manner? Why not? We have 445 clusters of weaving community, right? Each cluster is like a small little town, self-dependent. They do business. Why they are not seen as a municipality of their own to have connectivity available to them exclusively through Ministry of MSMEs or Ministry of Textile? So what I am actually trying to say is that we have not been able to contextualize the internet to the most needy people in a manner that it can easily happen. I mean, I'll give you a very simple example. All the teachers in the country have a smartphone, right? And still you must be hearing this anecdote and the newspaper headlines that teachers don't go to school and the children keep on waiting. Rural schools are empty and things like that. Why can't government insist to create a rule that every teacher will send their attendance with their geographical mark by sending their WhatsApp, message of attendance with a geographical location? It is embedded in WhatsApp. That means you have gone to school. And then take a picture of the class with the students. That's the attendance of the, I mean, this is simple technology. You don't need to plan anything. You just have to announce one policy. Then you get rid of all this problem of whether a teacher is going or sending a proxy in their place and they are doing a tuition and they are running a separate education industry. Not at all. So these are extremely important policy related approach that we need to take. And I will give another very interesting example. We had a project where we wanted to have a kind of teaching and learning, skilling our tribal girls, right? Most of the tribal girls and most of the girls who live in rural areas, they don't even speak in their life or what they're thinking. They are so patriarchally, downtrodden. So they don't even speak. We created a formula that let's give a smartphone to a tribal girl and then connect them through video on weekends to a mentor who is again a woman, and then allow them to chit chat. No agenda. And that became such a great skilling mentorship program that all the girls that we worked, 100 girls we worked with, 25 women, they all became entrepreneurs. And so much so that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs got that entire program converted into a national program. First, we did our own experiment. Then the Facebook came in and they supported it. And then the government of India's Ministry of Tribal Affairs adopted it as a national program. So what did we do? No innovation, only the thought process innovation, approach innovation. No technological innovation. Video call is available in your smartphone. You can always make a video call. No expense on mentorship. Nothing. Just the girl is calling on a weekend. Your wife is also enjoying, my wife is also enjoying having a great talk with the tribal girls living in a remote area, and she's also enjoying talking to somebody in town whom she look up to, and they both are learning. And we had cases of somebody from New York as a mentor and somebody sitting in a village as a mentee. And they had great relationship, even though both of them did not understand each other's language, but they developed it. Why? Because she could just speak her mind. She got her confidence, she got her desire, she got her aspiration, she got her motivation, she got her passion, and then nothing to be done. Then she will do everything on her own. And there are many such examples that we are talking about, that we are trying to do. The main focus is we need approach innovation, and we don't need technology. Not as a technology, it has to be seen as food or water or oxygen. And then you feel that how you can take it to the people.
Thank you so much, Osama. I would have asked one more question from myself, but let's see how much time we have. But I have in front of me a couple of more questions from the audience. One of them is about your experience and knowledge in conflict areas, and if you could provide the key challenges and solutions, or even further contact person for more information on that issue. Have you had any experience of that sort?
So in India, the conflict situation in many, somewhere there is a caste conflict, somewhere there is a border conflict, somewhere there is a communal conflict, somewhere there is something else.
I think this question, Osama, is primarily around the conflict areas. So probably border disputes and that sort of conflict areas.
So we work in Kashmir also, and we work in tribal areas in Chhattisgarh also. And we work in Gujarat, which is again a border state also. And we have worked as close to the Pakistan border in Gujarat, in Kutch, without having any problem. I think the solution in most of the conflict areas and everywhere else, which is our policy, is always work with the local community as an in charge, local community as a decision maker, local community as an ownership. And that's the reason why most of the time these conflicts do not affect us adversely. Actually, it is taken in a very positive manner. Like we work in Jharkhand, there are Naxal areas in Jharkhand. We work in Odisha, there are again Naxal areas in those areas. But in most of the places, we never had this problem, because everybody who is involved in this connectivity or access or information access or digital access is a local entrepreneur or a local person. And most of the time it is a woman. And wherever there is a woman involved, you have a better output, better accountability, better responsibility, and minimum problem.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. I think that kind of brings us to the last question, and this would be a question about how the relationship between increased access and increased civic participation, right? So is it threatening for governments, or is it a symbiotic relation? So that I think is a question that one of our audience members have asked.
So you must have seen that as far as India is concerned, government has been pushing digital inclusion very strongly. They have hundreds of programs. They like to push it as much as possible. They have liberalized most of the connectivity and access issue. But we have also been hearing in the last few years more internet shutdowns, more curb on connectivity, and so on and so forth. So what is happening is that the more we are becoming connected and becoming as a citizen online, we are becoming active and influential, the more problem we are creating for those who do not like independent voices. That is always there. It's always there. The voice could be independent and very aggressive. The voice could be just freedom of expression and not aggressive. This kind of situation exists since India is a very big country. We have all kind of situation. For example, there was a 100 days internet shutdown in Darjeeling, and at that point of time, it was the longest. Then we became Kashmir as one of the longest internet shutdown. But at the same time, I know in Kashmir that people are now mostly buying Geo in Kashmir as a broadband solution, and to take it at home, so that they do not get affected by internet shutdown through mobile, because most of the time when internet shutdown happens, it happens by switching off the mobile towers, by the internet service provider. And that is something that is very important for all of us to know. So I don't have an answer to that one, but there is no doubt that the more and more you are going to be trafficked, the more the jam will happen. So the next problem of highly connected society, highly connected or hyper connected society, would be jam, would be misinformation, would be fake news, privacy violation, surveillance, all kind of things that you can think physically. For example, when you are going to any very crowded town where they have maximum number of cars and maximum number of traffic, you have all kind of barriers, you have all kind of red lights, you have all kind of yellow lights, you have all kind of accidents, you have all kind of blockades, you have all kind of curbs, and you all kind of parking issues, you have all kind of all those issues. So when you talk about online being highly trafficked, you are going to face all the problem of authoritarianism, control, knowing yourself, you and your customers and everything. This is going to be a next phase of struggle for the humanity as they go online.
Absolutely. I think as going to end, because as it's time, but I think you highlighted so many challenges that I was just going to ask you, that the issues that you see emerging in the horizon and what you are focusing on next, right? Because these are the challenges that we all see, but I think there is more as you have sort of in-depth experience, particularly in this field. Do you see more issues, Osama, and what you're focusing as an organization going forward?
So going forward, we have a very clear-cut agenda. We have to continue to make the unconnected connected. That's for sure. And we are not going to stop that. And we have a very clear agenda that about 3,000 blocks in the country are underconnected or less connected. And that includes about 100,000 villages which are less connected, and they are on the margins of connectivity. We are going to work in those areas very, very strongly, physically and on the ground. The second thing, however, we are a very clear agenda is, which is emerging, is that how the connected ones are facing the problem of authoritarianism, misinformation, fake news, human rights violations, and so on and so forth, basically to bring sanity online. So it's very important that while the rest of the country who is not connected, to bring them on connectivity, but for those who are connected, can they be safe? Can they be secure? Can they have their peaceful life online? Can they be not trolled? Can they be not surveillanced? Can they have a peaceful, business to do? That's very, very important for us and for the whole humanity also, that how do we secure those online and how do we bring those online securely? That's basically is the agenda that we are looking for. While one is very local, which is bringing people online and connected, the second one is global and national as well, because the second one, which is making people safe and secure online, is a global agenda, because we all know that half the world is connected. We have to make them peaceful. while the other half of the world, who is largely underserved, who is not connected, we have to bring them to the connectivity with safety and security. That's what we are going to do. That's last 20 years of story you have heard. That's the next 20 years of story. That's the plan.
Thank you so much, Osama. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that's a really beautiful end to this conversation, how you're thinking so much about digital safety and security going forward as you tackle with these problems. And then I think we all grapple with these problems in our everyday life. And I think it's more in the case of the rural community that you work closely with. So on that note, thank you so much, Osama. I really appreciate it for joining and talking, sharing so much insight from your work of last 20 years. Congratulating DEF, Digital Empowerment Foundation. What an amazing journey that you all have. Okay, so look out.
Thank you.
All of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Subhashish. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and very delighted to talk to everybody who is online on the other half of the world, on the other side of the world. Please let us know if you want to know anything more. My email ID is osama@defindia.net, just in case anybody would like to get in touch. But of course, Ashoka is there and Subhashish is there. I am always available for anything or any information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Osama. So those of you who are still there, as we're running over a little bit time, look out for a follow-up email with a link to today's recording. This is recorded, and highlights to browse and share. And we hope you'll join next time. Welcome Change is this weekly series that we do about the future we want to live in and the role we all can play. We have many more conversations coming up, and you can sign up at the link in the chat, and have a good rest of your day, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.